Former Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger admits and apologizes live on his podcast to quarterback Kenny Pickett that initially last season he did not want him to succeed at taking over the reins at quarterback for the Steelers franchise. So, former Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger has a podcast and it's called Football with Ben, and he has many former Pittsburgh Steelers on, like James Harrison, Marquise Pouncey, Bill Cowher, and even current guys like Mike Tomlin, Pat Freiermuth. And in this week's episode, he had quarterback Kenny Pickett on, a guy who was in his rookie season last year and now heading to his sophomore season. And throughout the interview, it was a really good one where he was talking about his rookie season and how he felt being quarterback for the first time as a Steeler. So if you want to go watch it, go ahead. And towards the end of the episode, Ben Roethlisberger was asked a question by the host about how it was like seeing a quarterback play quarterback for the Steelers, knowing that you're officially retired. And Ben, he admitted on the podcast that he initially struggled overseeing Pickett take over the reins at quarterback. And here's the full quote. "I'll be completely honest, and I'll be super transparent here. I'm gonna get blasted. I probably shouldn't say this, but I mean, who cares at this point? I wouldn't say that I wanted Kenny to necessarily fail, but when someone comes in to replace you, and I still feel like I had it, like I hope he doesn't come out in here and ball, because then it's like, Ben who?" So, that makes complete sense. I know some people were completely shocked when he said this because you're just like, how could you want him to initially fail? But if you think about it, Ben Roethlisberger was a quarterback for nearly 20 years, and he's come on the podcast before saying that he initially didn't want to retire, and he felt as though he could play another year or two under center for the Steelers. But he felt as though Mike Tomlin and Kevin Colbert were kind of pushing him at the door and really didn't want him there anymore and wanted to get a young quarterback in the building right away. He felt as though the only person who really would have wanted him back if he decided to stay would have been Art Rooney. So he felt as though he was kind of pushed out the door and forced to retire on his own terms, or else the team might have not wanted him anymore. So he felt as though he could play another 2 years. So them seeing him draft Kenny Pickett, it's only the kind of thing because he's a competitor and he felt as though he could have played. You don't want the next guy after being there for 20 years to come in and initially succeed for the team because you were forced to retire and you kind of want to stick it to the franchise. Could have been like, I could have played another 2 years. So it kind of makes sense, but at the same time it doesn't make sense if you understand what I'm saying. So that wasn't the only quote. He also had this to say: "Early on, I didn't want them to succeed because they followed me up. I didn't want it to happen. I think that's probably the selfishness in me, and I feel bad for it. As you started playing, I found myself rooting for you more and more. You know what I'm saying? We sat down here and watched games, and we were high-fiving, going nuts, when you were leading the team and doing things." So obviously he admitted that it was wrong for him, and I'm not saying that it's right for him, but initially that's kind of how most people feel. If you lose any job to someone and they're coming in trying to replace you at your job, you're gonna feel that way. But he's man enough to admit that he felt that way, and it was selfishness of him to do so, and he apologized for it live to Kenny Pickett on his podcast. Obviously, him admitting it and manning up to it is the best thing for him moving forward, and obviously his relationship with Kenny moving forward, because as time goes on, yes, the feelings start to go away as you start to enjoy retirement more and enjoy your time being away. You kind of gain respect for the person coming after you and gain respect for what he's doing for the team and see him succeed with the team that you played for 18 seasons. So as time went on, as Kenny started leading those game-winning drives that Ben was famously known for, Ben Roethlisberger started gaining more respect for him and started like watching him play even more. And obviously over time, those feelings that you had, those hardships that you had, obviously go away, and you want the guy to succeed now. And that's obviously what happened with Ben Roethlisberger here. So that's not it. He also apologized like this. He admitted, "I apologized to you for not knowing how good you were going to be. I think that you're the future of this team. I really do, and I think the fans should be lucky. They are lucky that they got you." So he apologized to Kenny Pickett before in the season for not knowing how good he was going to be at running the ball, how good he was going to be on the move. obviously coming as a rookie, you really don't know how good the quarterback's going to be, especially a guy picked in the 20th and everyone passed on him. He was the first quarterback taken off the board at pick 20. When does that ever happen? So obviously Ben Roethlisberger didn't know how good he was going to be on the move, on the run, but he apologized for that, and he also said that he's going to be the future of the franchise, and hopefully that's right, because Kenny Pickett, he has so much potential, and in his rookie season, he led the Steelers late in the season to almost making the playoffs. Yeah, the Steelers went 6-2 down the stretch after initially struggling with Mitch Trubisky and him initially coming in. The Steelers were initially struggling, but leading those game-winning drives against the Raiders, leading the game-winning drive against the Ravens, those games really kind of switched a mindset in the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it gave them hope for the season. And they only missed the playoffs like one game. So hopefully next season, with adding more pieces to the team, adding that picket fence to block for him, adding more receptions, receiving threats on the outside, at tight end and a wide receiver, adding a better defense to the team in general, hopefully the Pittsburgh Steelers are able to continue to build and continue to grow both on offense and defense. And Kenny Pickett leading the Pittsburgh Steelers to more game-winning drives, leading to more wins. And now that he's used to the NFL, and he even said this himself, at the beginning of the year, he really didn't know what he was doing, but towards the end of the year, you start getting more comfortable, and in those situations, those game-winning drives, he said it felt like the game was so slow to him, and that's what you want for a quarterback. You want a quarterback where at the beginning, obviously, it's going to be a little bit fast, and you're kind of panicking, but towards the end of the season, and towards that game-winning drive, you start to calm down, everything starts to slow down for you, and you start to gain a more understanding of what you're doing on the field. And obviously, his coaches and his GM trust him. I made a video earlier in the week talking about how Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan have so much high expectations for him, and you only have those high expectations for him if you see the way he practices, you see the way he workouts, and you see the way he wants it. If you see a quarterback not doing those things in practice or not wanting it, you're not going to have as high expectations. But because they do have those high expectations, that means he's doing all the right things on and off the field for the GM and the head coach to publicly come out and state those high expectations. So if you want to go see those high expectations that they set for him, go watch the video. And obviously all his teammates and podcasts like Cameron Hayward all have high expectations for him as well, because whenever they go on podcasts or on TV shows, they mention how good he is and how they want him to succeed and how they think he is going to be a franchise guy for the Steelers for many years to come. So Ben Roethlisberger, he played nearly 2 decades for the Steelers, 18 seasons. I don't know if Kenny Pickett's going to play that much because he did come in as an older quarterback. So let's see how many years, if he could play 15 plus years for the Pittsburgh Steelers and be the face of the franchise for them for many more years to come. And obviously, like I said, Ben Roethlisberger admitting that he was wrong in his comments and initially wanting him to not succeed. Obviously, he was wrong for that, and he admitted it, and he apologized live to Kenny Pickett. Many of you guys were shocked, but that's just a normal thing, I believe, for someone playing nearly 2 decades with the same team and being kind of kicked out the door late in his career. So, with that being said, let me know down in the comments below. How do you feel Ben Roethlisberger's comments about Kenny Pickett and saying that he initially didn't want him to succeed at his job, taking over the reins at quarterback when he officially retired? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you believe that he was wrong for it, or do you believe it was kind of the right feeling and it was a good thing that he admitted it and apologized? Let me know down in the comments below. And now, with Big Ben even admitting this, to be honest, it might even give him more credibility when he's talking about Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers going forward. Because many Steelers fans, they talk about Kenny Pickett, but we all know you're Steelers fans. So, obviously, you're going to like what Kenny Pickett's doing on the field and you're going to be biased. But because he initially didn't like what he was doing on the field and he didn't really want him to succeed and how he kind of won him over, to be honest, that might even give him more credibility because now you know he won him over with his talent on the field. He just didn't win him over right away because he was quarterback for the Steelers. He actually won him over based on his play on the field, based on his aura, based on how he's handling himself. So honestly, it might give him more credit talking moving forward about Kenny Pickett's game. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you like serious content, analysis, reports. Like the video, turn on post notifications down below for this channel as well so you get notified whenever I post next year's video. I've been covering all of free agency. I covered all the draft, all the signings, all the undrafted guys. I made profiles on all of them and introductions to all of them. So if you want to go watch it, go ahead. They're all on the channel. And also, every news, every rumor in the future, everything that breaks for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to OTAs, training camp, preseason, regular season. Just know I'm covering it all. So stay tuned and like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.